Pam Bondi might dominate the headlines, but another moment just shook Washington and barely anyone noticed. In a Senate hearing, Senator Andy Kim sat across from Secretary Kristi Noem and asked her a question that any high school civics student could answer: what article of the Constitution contains the suspension clause of habeas corpus? Her answer: silence, hesitation, confusion. One by one the questions kept coming. Do you know which branch of government Article 1 applies to? Do you know who has the power to suspend habeas corpus? Each time her responses faltered, uncertain, off balance. It wasn't just awkward, it was chilling. Because here was a top law enforcement official, entrusted with enormous authority, unable to explain one of the most fundamental protections in American democracy.
Senator Kim.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam
Senator.
Secretary, a press release came out from the Department of Homeland Security a couple days ago. It said that members of Congress in New Jersey that went to the Delaney Hall ICE detention facility could, quote, could have just scheduled a tour. I guess I'd just like to hear from you if you can confirm that you understand that members of Congress by law are allowed to show up unannounced to conduct oversight visits of ICE detention facilities.
Yes, they can conduct oversight, but Senator, what I would ask is that they understand that that doesn't mean they could show up with a mob with the intention to break in and assault law enforcement officers. That's what happened at Delaney Hall last week.
You're familiar
is that those individuals and those members of Congress were surrounded by criminals, creating criminal and perpetuating criminal acts.
You understand that
but when
they
you
were
show up
already
and ask
within
for a tour,
the
we
facility.
facilitated every single tour that every member of Congress has wanted. We've always done that, and we have to, when we have a tour, also make sure that we've addressed security concerns and have enough staff and all of that, and we were accommodating that when those individuals showed up and they decided instead to break in.
You know that they were already on the ICE premise, already facilitating into having the tour when there was the arrest of the mayor. They were not breaking into
They had broken through the outer fence, and they were interior on federal property when the crimes occurred.
They were invited in by ICE as the ICE was preparing to give them a tour.
That doesn't give them an excuse to start punching law enforcement officers.
But you understand that they were not storming the fence.
Well, I don't understand. Are you making excuses for their behavior that day?
I'm just trying to clarify what exactly happened.
Oversight is an important part of what Congress does and what you provide to our department, and we welcome it. We give tours when members of Congress ask for it. We just ask that they not be politicized, that they actually are there to provide the oversight that is needed to ensure that we're doing due diligence in our job.
And if I were to show up at ICE detention facility unannounced, I would be let in.
Yes, I would ask that you would be allowing us to secure the officers that we need to give you an appropriate tour, that we'd be able to cover the other bases and posts that they would have to leave to come and facilitate that. We may have to call other people in to help cover some of that because of the extra responsibilities, but we can do that.
I've done this before. I just wanted to make sure I heard that from you. I wanted to just go back to something that was raised earlier about habeas corpus. Can you confirm to us that you understand that any suspension of habeas corpus requires an act of Congress?
President Lincoln executed habeas corpus in the past with retroactive action by Congress. I believe that any president that was able to do that in the past, it should be afforded to our current day president. This president has never said he's going to do this. He's never communicated to me or his administration that they're going to consider suspending habeas corpus, but I do think the Constitution allows them the right to consider it.
When we saw what happened with, how many times has habeas corpus been suspended in our country?
Once that I know of.
4 times.
For certain. I'm not certain if those were.
The instance that you were referring to was one where the courts subsequently showed that Congress is the one that has the ability. Do you know what section of the Constitution the suspension clause of habeas corpus is in?
I do not. Nope.
Do you know which article it is in?
No, I do not, sir.
Okay, well, it is in Article 1. Do you know which branch of government Article 1 outlines the tasks and the responsibilities for?
Yes.
Which one?
Congress.
Yes. Stephen Miller has said that he is actively considering, that there is active consideration of habeas corpus. Have you had a conversation with Stephen Miller about suspending habeas corpus?
I have not.
When it comes to FEMA, this is something I'm concerned about. Being from New Jersey, we've had challenges with Superstorm Sandy and others in the past. I was alarmed when I saw some reports that the acting head, Richardson, said last Thursday that he's about 80 to 85% done with the hurricane season plan, given that we are just days away from hurricane season beginning. I just wanted to ask you, is he done with his hurricane preparedness plan?
He is working diligently with the employees at FEMA and are prepared for hurricane season. What you
Have you seen this plan? Have you seen this plan? Is he
Yes, I've been
presented it to
actively
you?
engaged in hurricane response and preparation.
seen the
We're
plan?
pre-staging people, pre-staging equipment.
Is that
We're
plan
making sure that
something-
we have tabletop exercise we're running through with all of our regions on what their response will be. It's been very extensive how we've laid out this plan.
And
What-
will you be able to share
what-
that plan with this committee?
I will check and make sure
Yeah,
that
if
I
you can
can,
check
but
on
I would think that we would be able to do
Okay.
that. I can't
Just
see any
one-
reason that would
Just
be.
one last thing. A couple weeks ago, you said that you were considering restarting in-person training at the National Fire Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to ask if you're prepared to tell this committee that that you are moving forward with restarting in-person trainings.
Yes, the plan is to do that again, so.
That has been approved
yeah.
to restart?
Yes, it has been.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I yield back.
Senator Scott.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman.
And that should stop every American in their tracks. Habeas corpus is not some abstract legal term buried in dusty textbooks. It's the simple, powerful principle that the government cannot jail you without cause. It is the line separating democracy from dictatorship. Without it, anyone, political opponents, protesters, even ordinary citizens could be detained indefinitely with no trial and no explanation. It is quite literally the backbone of due process. And the Constitution is crystal clear. The power to suspend habeas corpus rests only with Congress. Article 1 spells it out, which means not the President, not a cabinet secretary, not a governor, Congress. End of story. But when Senator Kim pressed Secretary Noem, she wavered. She suggested that a president should be afforded the same right as Abraham Lincoln, who suspended habeas corpus during the Civil War. What she failed to mention, or perhaps didn't know, is that Lincoln's action was retroactively approved by Congress, not unilaterally declared. Even in the chaos of a civil war, the system of checks and balances still mattered. To casually suggest today's president should enjoy the same unchecked authority is not just wrong, it's dangerous. And that's the problem. This wasn't a simple slip of the tongue, it was a window into something much bigger, ignorance wrapped in power. When someone with sweeping authority over law enforcement doesn't grasp the limits of that authority, the danger isn't theoretical, it's real. Because history tells us what happens when leaders blur those boundaries. Civil liberties erode, accountability weakens. Democracies crumble slowly, not with one dramatic collapse but through small acts of neglect and ignorance. Senator Kim didn't have to shout, he didn't have to grandstand. He simply exposed that fragility with calm, pointed questions, but the hearing didn't stop at constitutional ignorance. A Department of Homeland Security press release accused members of Congress from New Jersey of storming the Delaney Hall ICE detention facility. The statement claimed lawmakers could have just scheduled a tour. Sounds dramatic until you look closer. By law, members of Congress are entitled to unannounced oversight visits. They don't need an appointment. It's not a favor granted by an agency, it's their constitutional role. Oversight is how Congress ensures accountability, especially in places where power is most easily abused, like detention centers. So when those lawmakers showed up, they weren't breaking in, they were doing their job. And as Senator Kim clarified, they were already inside, already being escorted by ICE officials when confusion outside led to arrests and headlines. No mob, no storming, no breach. But the press release framed oversight as aggression, painting a picture of chaos where there was none. And that's no small thing, because redefining oversight as disorder undermines Congress's ability to hold the executive branch accountable. It flips the script, making watchdogs look like troublemakers. And once again, Secretary Noem leaned on excuses, staffing, scheduling, protocol, anything but the clear truth. Members of Congress have that right, and agencies must respect it. Then came another issue, FEMA. Senator Kim, representing New Jersey, knows the devastation of hurricanes all too well. Superstorm Sandy still haunts the state. That's why he was alarmed to hear reports that the acting FEMA head was only 80 to 85% done with the hurricane season plan just days before the season began. 85%. Incomplete. Unfinished. Secretary Noem tried to reassure the committee plans are being made, equipment staged, tabletop exercises run. But when pressed, there was no concrete answer, no clear evidence that the plan was actually finished. And when asked if the plan could be shared with Congress, another vague promise. Maybe, possibly, she'd check. Think about that. One of the most vital agencies in America responsible for disaster response heading into hurricane season without a fully complete plan, and the official testifying before Congress couldn't say whether lawmakers would even get to see it. It's not just bureaucracy, it's lives on the line. And if that wasn't enough, Senator Kim raised one final concern: training at the National Fire Academy. Weeks earlier, Secretary Noem had suggested restarting in-person training. So Kim asked plainly, had it been approved? Was it happening? Yes, she finally confirmed. That one answer at least was clear, but by then the damage was done. Because this hearing wasn't really about one question, or one program, or even one official, it was about a pattern. Ignorance of the Constitution, redefining oversight as disorder, weak assurances on emergency preparedness. Piece by piece, each moment revealed how fragile accountability becomes when leaders either don't understand the rules or choose to ignore them. Senator Kim's questions weren't just tough, they were necessary. Because what he revealed should terrify all of us. Some of the most powerful people in our government are entrusted with enforcing laws they don't fully understand, and when the people in charge of defending democracy don't know how it works, who's really defending it? Here's the bigger truth. Democracy doesn't collapse in one day, it crumbles slowly, it erodes when oversight is treated as hostility, when constitutional protections are dismissed as optional, when those sworn to protect the rule of law don't even know where the rulebook begins. That's why this hearing mattered. Even if it never made the cable news chyron, it mattered because Senator Kim exposed more than just Kristi Noem's shaky answers. He exposed a crack in the foundation, and if we don't pay attention, those cracks will widen. So, ask yourself, do you want leaders who understand the Constitution, or leaders who stumble over it? Do you want oversight respected or dismissed as chaos? Do you want FEMA ready for the next storm, or hiding behind unfinished plans? Because the answers to those questions won't just shape hearings in Washington, they'll shape the strength of our democracy. At Liberal Lens, we don't just replay the clips, we dig deeper, we connect the dots, we expose the cracks in the system that most people miss. If you believe the Constitution still matters in 2025, if you believe oversight is a right, not a courtesy, if you believe habeas corpus, the right to not be jailed without cause, is still worth defending, then share this video. Speak up, stay awake, subscribe and hit the bell, because these stories can't be ignored. Power without understanding is dangerous, and democracy only survives if we hold the powerful accountable, not someday, not later, but right now.